Okay, welcome to the 19th lecture in the 2011-2012 OUC English Lecture Series. Today's speaker is Professor Daniela Caluianu. She's a professor of English at OUC, and her topic today is genes or culture, what babies, apes, dogs, savants, and Alex the parrot can tell us about human language. Dr. Caluianu.
Okay. Thank you for the introduction and for the invitation. Most of the lectures so far have been about applied linguistics, and I'm going to talk about linguistics in general, the science of language. And I know that everybody who is in this room speaks a foreign language. And of course everybody also speaks their native language. And when you think about it, it was very easy to learn the first language, the native language, and not so easy to learn the foreign language. And when you think about the results, you speak the native language perfectly, and the second language not so perfectly. So you would think that the science of language and linguistics and the people who study language would be very interested in second language acquisition, right? Because it's so difficult. But the fact is that theoretical linguists are far more interested in first language acquisition. So part of this talk today will also refer to first language acquisition. Why is first language acquisition so important? It doesn't seem logical. It's something that everybody does easily and with perfect results, so we should spend more time learning about what we do with difficulty, right? But it is hoped that studying first language acquisition, the way babies learn how to speak, we will get some answers to the big problems. And here are some of the big questions, right? Big questions. What is language? How did human language evolve? What is the relation between language and thought? Does language make us better than all the animals on Earth? So these are some of the questions I will try to talk about today and see what what answers are given by the science of language. Why could studying babies give, or the way babies acquire language, give answers to such big questions? First of all, babies, newborn babies, acquire language from scratch. Yes? They don't speak any language, and they get to speak a language. And it is hoped that by studying the process, the way in which they learn to speak, will give us answers to the question how language appeared, how language evolved, right? And also an answer to the question, the big question, what language is. And if we know what language is and how it appeared, we will get some answers to the question, what is the relation between language and thought? And if we know that, we will know if we are better than all the other animals or not. So these are very important questions, and studying first language acquisition can give us some answers, or the beginning of answers to these questions. And I will talk about two very influential theories of language. One is Chomsky's theory, and the other one is the cultural theory that has been put forth by Michael Tomazello. Right? In Chomskyan linguistics, first language acquisition, the way babies learn how to speak a language, is very important. And the task of linguistics, according to Chomsky, the goal of linguistics, I give you quotations, but my talk, I'm not going to read them. I'm going to explain what they mean. But in many cases, I put the quotations there for you to be sure that I'm not making up things. It's what the people are actually saying. Yes? According to Chomsky, the task of linguistics is to distinguish what a human language, a possible human language is. Yes? To see what is the distinction between a human language and something that is not a human language. It seems easy, right? Everybody knows what a language is, but it's not like that, actually. Even recognizing what a language is not so easy. If you hear a language you've never heard before, you cannot say for sure if it's a human language or just an invention. But that's recognizing. What he is trying to do is not recognizing languages, but finding the essence of language. What is it that makes a language a human language? And that's not easy to do. There are over or around 6,000 languages spoken now all over the globe. And let's imagine that we have a very powerful computer, and we put all the data in that computer, and the computer produces some rules on the basis of those languages, right? Are those the laws? Is that the essence of human language? What do you think? Okay. Let's imagine that after having those rules, we discover a new language, a new human language spoken somewhere in the Amazonian forest. Will that language match the rules or not? Maybe yes, or maybe not. We cannot know for sure that it will match those generalizations. So, understanding the distinction between what is a language and what is not a language, it's more than finding some general rules based on describing existing languages. And this is really a very hard job to do. But babies do it, right? Newborn babies, they know what is language, what a language is, right? Because when they learn to speak, they don't learn to bark or mew, or they don't learn any of the sounds that are going on around them. They choose language and they learn language, right? And they do it fast. How is that possible? Chomsky's answer is that there is something there to start with, okay? The baby is not born completely ignorant, but he is born with some knowledge. And so his answer is innateness. Innateness is being born with something. And he also explains that this something, yes, babies are born with, is modular. Modular means that there is a special function, there is a special part of the brain that is in charge of that feat of recognizing and learning language, right? And what kind of evidence he gives for that? He gives, of course, first language acquisition and the speed of first language acquisition. The fact that babies learn to speak so fast and so well without any effort. And then there is maturation. What means maturation? Means that there is a time limit, if you, a best before date. If you don't use this capacity to learn language in good time, it gets lost, right? And this shows that it is something genetic. It's something biological, genetic. And it's true. Babies begin to acquire language at a certain age. And by a certain age, around 12 years of age, this stops, okay? And if people don't use this function, let's say that a baby is born in the wild, and there have been cases like that of wild babies who did not have any contact with language until 5, 6 years of age. They can never learn how to speak, okay? They missed the bus. This shows that this is a biological property of humans, acquiring language. There are other properties like that too. For example, you know that newborn babies can swim, right? And they can swim up to the age of 6 months. After that, they lose the capacity to swim and they have to learn it the hard way. It's same with language, yeah? Until a certain age, we learn it, we do it without effort. After that, we have to go to boring language or fun classes and make a lot of effort to learn the language. Also, evidence that we don't acquire language because we are smart in general, but because there is something special in the brain for acquiring language. And the evidence is of two kinds. First of all, there were some cases of people who have normal intelligence level, but who could not speak grammatically. And this was transmitted in families. And the cause of this was pinpointed to a gene. And people talked about grammar genes, right? So language faculty is not same as general intelligence. There are other cases. Savant. Savant is a person who has mental disabilities, but who has some extraordinary gift. If you have watched the movie The Rain Man, the main character is a savant. He cannot take care of himself, but he can, I don't know, remember anything he looks at, right? Or there are people, savants, who can do extraordinary calculations in their minds. There is a case of a language savant, a man who lives in Britain and who can speak around 20 languages. He can learn languages with extreme speed, and he can translate from one language to another. But he can hardly tie his shoes himself, right? And his grammar is impeccable. His grammar is very good. But his pragmatics, okay, is not good at all. He cannot understand jokes. He cannot lie. That's not such a bad thing. He cannot understand certain things that are contrary to reality, right? So this shows that language is something we are born with, and it is a special property. Okay? So Chomsky calls universal grammar that genetic something we inherit from our parents as humans, and that's something which allows us to speak a language. But when you think about it, what could it be, right? It couldn't be that we are born with knowledge of words, right? Because words are different in different languages, right? And if we were born with words in our brain, we could learn only the language of our parents. But this is not the case. A baby can learn any language, right? Which means that whatever it is that the baby has is general enough to accommodate all languages, and abstract enough, right? And so Chomsky's latest version of his theory is the minimalist program. And for the minimalist program, Chomsky started deductively, right? So not inductively, not from data to some generalities, but from a hypothesis, a logical hypothesis, and then trying to see how it works. And so the question he asked is, how little can we know and still be able to do what we do? Okay? How simple, how small can be this component of the brain that allows us to learn language and still allow us to do what we do, right? And there are two limits. On the one hand, if it is too complex, if you have too much information there, then it will be difficult to account for the great diversity of languages.